Hey you guys, it's your girl Nessa and I am back with another tutorial, and the tutorial I have for you guys today is eyebrows. So if you want to see how I do brows on clients, just keep on watching. So I am going in with two different concealers. So I'm going with the Kylie Jenner and the NARS concealer, and I'm going in with the Anastasia Brow Wiz in the shade Ebony. So for concealers, when I am doing brows, I always do about 2 to 3 shades lighter underneath the brows. The reason why I do it 2 to 3 shades lighter underneath the brows is because I do use a concealer as an eyeshadow base. And for the concealer for the top part of her brows, I do use a shade that's similar to her skin tone. It might be a half a shade lighter or a shade lighter, but I don't recommend to do anything lighter than like one shade. So for brows, when I'm filling in brows, basically what I'm doing is, as you can see earlier, I did brush her brow hairs up because I want to see the actual shape of my client's brows. I do not want to draw their brows on their skin. I want to follow the actual brow shape. If your client has new growth, it's okay because you can still see the shape of their brows. I create a line underneath, and then for the top part of the brow, I'll start filling in the tail part because I do want the tail part to be the darkest part of the brows. I do not want the front part to be dark. So that's why I'll fill in the tail part first before even touching the front part. For the front part, I'm basically just doing like flicking up motions. I feel like flicking up motions for the front part of the brows just makes the brows a lot more natural and you're not adding as much product. When you're doing brows too, keep in mind that you do want to do long strokes. The long strokes will make your brows look a lot more natural and not so dark. When you're doing brows first on a client, keep in mind that that's the first thing that you see on a client, so you do not have to worry about the brows feeling like you need to make it darker. I always go lighter for the brows because I know that once I'm done with the entire face, her brows would not be dark and they'll actually look really natural and like a true brown instead of like a dark brown. So next we're doing concealer. As you can see, I am using my favorite concealer brush from Wet n Wild, and I do make sure that both sides of my brush is completely coated, and I do make sure my brush is completely flat. If your brush hairs are like all over the place, you are not going to get you're not going to get a clean brow, period. So do keep in mind that you do want your brush to be very flat. I do my brows in sections, so basically what I did was I made a line from the from the front part of her brow to the arch, and then I will finish it off with a tail. You do not want to drag your brush all the way through because you would not get a clean line underneath your brows. Brows are very important, and I do recommend for you to take your time. For you to get really clean brows, I do recommend to go over it a few times. Not meaning like a few times like adding more concealer, but I do recommend for you to go over it a few times to make sure there's no streaks. Another pet peeve of mine for brows is I hate it when the front part is uneven, so I do make a unibrow concealer. I do that for the top part and the bottom part. I'm doing the same exact thing what I did on the other side. I started in the front of her brow underneath all the way to the arch, making sure that's completely clean, and then I will end it with the arch to the tail. Like I said, you do not want to drag your brush all the way through with one stroke because you're not going to get a perfect concealer line. So you do have to take your time. I always tell all my students to take your time when it comes to eyebrows. Eyebrows are so important. With this concealer too, I do try to get as close as I can to her brow hairs. I'm not leaving like any extra skin. I'm literally like right underneath her brows when I am concealing. Just because I do a lot of clients and I feel like clients want their brows to look like their actual brows unless, someone tells me they want bigger eyebrows. But I do try to keep the concealer like right underneath their brow hairs. And then now I'm just dragging the concealer onto her lid. I didn't tell you earlier, but this is the NARS concealer that I'm using for underneath her brows. This is a really good concealer. This is a full coverage concealer, so I do highly recommend for all my makeup artists to have this concealer in your kit. Like I said earlier too, I do use concealer as an eyeshadow base. It does look a lot lighter than her skin tone, but I promise it will all come together. I like to do lighter just because when I go in with eyeshadows, the eyeshadows actually show. I do admit that I had to add a little bit of a darker concealer into it so that it actually matches her skin. As you can see, it's about like half a shade lighter than her skin tone. I don't like the, you know, light on top, light at the bottom. I feel like that's kind of old. I just like my clients' top of their brows to actually match their skin. I just feel like it just looks. You know, with the fluffy brush, and I'm basically going to be tapping in between the middle of her eyebrows. As you can see, I do tap on top of the brows a little bit to give her that more ombre effect because I don't like boxy eyebrows. And voila, that's how I do eyebrows. I think my technique is very easy, so I definitely want you guys to try it out. This is the completed look. I will have a makeup tutorial for you guys soon for this. If not, it'll probably be linked below for you guys. So yes, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you guys and your support, and I will see you guys in my next video. Love you.